All right, we are here for another tournament, and you always love these tournaments where the holes run all over the place. So you can't just go to one tour and practice. So it's kind of cool because you got to kind of track things down. So the first hole is from Parc de Paris. It's hole number one. It's a par four. It was in the Metro Open. It was hole number one in the Metro Open. Hole number two is from Nordic. It's hole number four in the Nordic Fords, par three. It was in Christmas Links. So you can stop this and you can see what each hole, what course it's normally on, and then where it's at, so that you can track these holes down and kind of go get a look at them when you make your notes. So we have some preliminary notes. So I was able to pull up notes from these other tournaments and kind of copy down some stuff. I don't have holes 6 and 7, these ones that are from the summer. I was on the road and I didn't record, so I don't have anything. I don't even have notes. I can't find the notes anywhere either. So we'll look at them when we go into Golf Clash Notebook. So let's go to Golf Clash Notebook and take a look at the second anniversary tournament. All right, we can get our screen to not change sides here. Hole number one is a par four, and we need to get an eagle on this one. Now, there's a bunch of different ways to play this. You can play, let's get back farther so we can see the tee box. So you can play from the tee box and bounce over here and get your second bounce to come over and roll up into this area, and from here to the pin is a long iron. The approach down here to get on is a little tricky. It takes a weird bounce. You'll have to, if you go this route and you're using the long iron, it's this hole's got a tricky approach to it when you approach it from this side. So that's shot number one, and you can do this shot right here with a QB, any driver you have. But if you're going to do this shot and you're laying up out here, you're going for the safe long iron, get your birdie and go home, because this can be a tricky hole if you go anywhere other than over here. And if you've got underdeveloped clubs, this is the smart move. You can come up here with a little bit bigger ball, and you can probably start your quarterback over on this side so you don't have to take that hop, and then it's just about getting the topspin, backspin, whatever you need in order to stop out here in front. You can definitely get over here with an extra mile, but you're doing a layup shot up out here and you really want it to be accurate. So it doesn't hurt to bring a QB if you can you just may have to bring a bigger ball. The other way to go is to go from the green and come out here and try and get out into this area, and out here you're somewhere in this area is, you got short iron on this side and you got your wedge on this side. So if you can get into that short iron wedge range, now you're in much more accurate clubs and you're a lot closer to the green. So, it's the same line as this shot. So you're going to have that same weird effect. But this shot is easier to get done when you're up here. But trying to get up into this area up here has risks. So you've got to negotiate over this entire trap. And we've got trees that are in play, and we've got sand that's in play, and we have sand over here in our landing area if we tried to bounce it. So this can be a tricky shot. It's best if you come at it from this side right here and try and bring it back over. Anywhere in that shadow is the goal. So if you're right in front of that shadow, that's anywhere in the shadow is fine. But if you're at the front edge of that shadow, you're probably in your rapier range, or whatever wedge you're using, Inbringer, whatever it happens to be, Firefly. The other way to go at this, and I'll have to post. I posted a video of some of the holes. So if you look, I'll put this at the beginning of the guide just as a walkthrough. But if you look through after this, the videos that are in this playlist, they've got different names, and it's from whatever tournament they were in before. So I just put them in this playlist so that you could see those holes however long ago I recorded them. But the other shot is to come over here, and on that one I used an extra mile. I had max topspin. I actually, in the video, I think I was a little shy of max, and I just barely made it. So max would have put me, if I'd have hit it, I actually hit the shot wrong, and it still worked out. So what I did was I overpowered, and I started down in this area, and I put on almost maximum topspin, but I also put on right hand side spin. And then when I shot the shot, I overpowered it and I put on more right hand side spin. And I went right in between these trees and trickled out right here onto the fairway. I mean, just like barely onto the fairway. So I made this shot as far as like from this bounce to try and blow through the rough. I made that on one of the longest parts. I mean, up here the neck is shallower. So when you're making this shot, what you're trying to do is if you think about the shallowest part of the rough, that's the shallowest part. Anything this direction, it starts to get bigger. Anything this direction, it starts to get bigger. So when you come from out here where you hit and you're looking to blast through it, how you approach that, I didn't need to put all that side spin. I actually made it worse because I ended up putting the trees more in play. It would have been better to dribble off up here on the top and see how it would roll across this hill if it had a little bit of speed. But I think that's the shot I'm going to try on this. I'm going to practice it. It's really important on those Monday qualifying rounds to use it as a practice round and go out there and don't try and cheat the game so that you're forfeiting in the middle of a game and giving somebody an extra shot. But you can miss some putts and forfeit that round if you can spare the coins to go out there and have a practice round. But I'm definitely going to go for the shot where it's overpowered here, and I'm trying to get on in one. And I'll tell you my reasoning is that this shot back here with my long iron, to me, I don't make these shots all the time. And for some reason, I'm still working the numbers on my backbone. So the numbers, like the numbers that I play with, but they're just a little bit off compared to where I have my Hornet. So this shot right here is not a high percentage shot for me. So what I'm doing is I'm laying up to take a long iron shot that I have an iffy opportunity to get into the hole to try and pick up an eagle. And to me, it's not worth just laying up here. I need to get an eagle on this hole. And this shot out here going to this second fairway, in my opinion, is a very risky shot trying to get over all of this. I mean, you're putting all of that into play. When you come over here, you avoided all of that. That's one of the reasons you came over here. If you come over here, you're avoiding that. So, if I'm out in this area, my worst case scenario is that I got a little bit too close on the right and I put these trees in play to get to the green. I got out in this area. So as long as you avoid that area by trying to do this shot more than this shot, the worst case scenario out here is I'm going to end up in the rough and have a rough shot to get on, and then I'm going to get a birdie. So in my mind, I didn't lower my chances of getting an eagle by coming out here, even though I may not make this shot every time to get out here. But when I get out here, I've got a serious shot at eagle. So if I can get into my wedge range down here where I don't have to deal with wind, it's all about making adjustments for the slope. Or I can get on the green, but you don't really want to get on the green too low. If you're going to get on the green, you need to be up here by the green. You don't want to have to take that putt. So it's that fine line between getting too far and ending up just barely on the green and ending up out here on the fringe of the fairway and having a much better shot. But this is definitely a hole that there's going to be people at the top of the brackets for sure are going to have eagled this hole at least once in every round, and this is probably one of those make or break holes where you're going to have to eagle at both times. I mean, you're going to have to start the game off hot and eagle this hole both times through if you want any shot at winning. And I think that going out here and having that shot each time, I'd rather be up here on the green. If there's a way to get on the green here and get that eagle, I want to do that shot. So this is the drive I'm going to look for. So that's hole number 1. Hole number 2. This is from the Nordic Fords courses, and this is hole number 4, par 3. It was in the Christmas Links tournament. It was hole number 4, par 3. Because the Christmas Links tournament was these Nordic Fords. They're brand new. So on this one, I'm coming straight out with a Guardian, and I've got my blue rings. So this rough transition down here, where it's rough, and then over here it's fairway, and then this transition where it's green, and then over here it's fringe. I've got my blue ring wedged into this area, and from that spot, and it puts me up kind of like up in this area. From that spot, I've got maximum side spin, maximum curl, maximum backspin. And I'm doing a 1.5 ring adjustment because we're kind of in mid club, and I'm using a katana. And we're getting pretty dang close to the hole. I think our shot for hole-in-one is, I mean, it's always iffy when you put that much stuff into a shot. I mean, if you start putting that much side spin and that much curl and that much stuff into a shot just to get it to go in the direction that you want it to go, your odds of getting a hole-in-one are pretty low. You're much better off hitting from over here. If you want to get a hole-in-one, if you want to have a serious shot at hole-in-one every time, is to perfect the shot from over here that comes over and comes up, or the one that comes here, and then you do the... I feel less comfortable doing shots that go to the left, where I'm having to maneuver that thing to the left, than I am when I'm going to the right. So I would probably, if I was forced to do it, I would probably pick one of the shots over here. But the thing is that there's shots like hole number one where we really need to get a hole or we really need to get an eagle, and we don't want to take any chances on this hole of not getting a birdie. So I want to start off on the green side, and this is the only thing I'm dealing with. I want to take this water out of play. I want to take these hillsides out of play. I want to take this rough out of play. I want to take all this rough out of play. I don't even see this stuff. That's all I want to see. That's it. That's as far as I want to go on this hole. All right, that was hole number 2. All right, had to take a break there for a minute. Hole 3. Hole 3 is from the Nordic Fords. It's hole 5, par 5. It was in the Christmas Links tournament. So we are coming at it down here with a rock. And the deciding factor here between whether you use a rock or a quarterback is distance. So if the rock has more distance, use the rock. If your quarterback has more distance, use your quarterback. You want to use your most accurate club. So you're doing a layup shot here, and if you're using the rock and you've got more distance, you're probably somewhere, your first bounce is going to be over the sand over here. If you're using a quarterback, you're far back just enough that your first bounce is right on the transition. So it's a little trickier with a quarterback. You either have to, last time the wind was blowing in this direction. So that means it's going to push I'm always 2 rings off from the rough. So I bring it out as far as it'll go till I'm at the red line, and then I pull it off so that it's 2 rings off from the rough, 3 rings off, that'd be blue ring. So you're super safe. The ball's pointing out in this direction, but you're going to apply curl to bring it back towards the center. And you don't have to apply all the curl, but even if you applied all the curl, you're still going to be fine out here. And then we're just trying to lay it up out here. So you can take some of this wind to help push you forward just a bit, and it'll push you past the sand, or you can do a slight, like just up against the nubs, overpower once you adjust out the wind, just so that you can get up into that area. So if you wanted to leave the wind in, but you wanted to take the side spin out, you'd address the ball. So if you had wind going in this direction and your ball's out here, your blue rings off from the rough, and you're pulling it this way for the wind, that's taking out the side spin. That's taking all of this direction out. And then what you could do is push it back to the red line, and that puts the power back into it. So that puts the ball where you wanted it to be out here ahead. So you could use the wind to your advantage and not have to do any overpower. Or you can put a slight amount of overpower on it. I prefer to do the slight amount of overpower. And the reason is that the first time you come here, you have a 3-2 wind. And the next time you come here, the wind's going a little bit like this, and you have a 3-6 wind. And then the next time it's a 4-1, and every time it's different. So if you keep leaving the power in, leaving the power in, leaving the power in, and you're out here pretty close, and then you get that 4-1, you might end up in the rough. So the wind is a variable. You'd have to like, okay, every time I'm only going to leave in 2 wind. Okay. So I prefer to just adjust the wind completely out so that the ball ends up where I want it, and though it's going to make its bounce right here on the edge, and put just a titch of overpower so that it'll bounce out in front. And I can control that overpower just by pushing up against the nubs, not really, into the ring at all. Once you get out into this area, you do not need to get up all the way in the front. Like with the rock, I'm using maximum left-hand side spin, and I'm using 1 backspin with the rock. If you're using the quarterback, because you're hitting back a little bit farther, you may have to change this number. It may be 1 topspin. You'll have to adjust that number to find out, but I wouldn't want to get any close. I wouldn't want to be on this side of that line. You don't need to be. Don't force the issue there. The first shot's just the setup shot for the second shot. In the second shot, I'm bringing a sniper. It's going to put my red line somewhere out in this area right here, so I'm going to have to top spin it in. But you're only going to have to use 1, 2, maybe 3 top spin most. And it comes in a little bit, the ball guide may go just a little bit beyond the hole, but it comes in a little slower. It's like the grains, like you're hitting against the grain there. And I'm going to do a 1.1 wind adjustment instead of a 1.0 with my sniper. I'm going to do a little bit of a different wind adjustment on it. All right, that was hole number. No, let's briefly talk about out here as a viable shot. All right, we talked about it. I mean, unless you bring a super big ball and a big dog, so that you can try and get on the green, if you're hitting out here, this second shot is, unless you brought absolutely the right stuff, is just a waste of a turn. Because it's a super difficult shot that you don't have to do on yourself when this is such an easy layup. Hole number 4. Now if you're playing in the upper divisions, that might be the side that you have to play on. That might be the obvious side, but not in rookie. Hole number 4. This is from the Parc de Paris. This is hole number 8, par 3 in the Parc de Paris. And what I normally do is I come at this with a long iron and a backbone or a Saturn. Backbone's going to give you a little more accuracy, but sometimes I find on these ones, because in this particular one I'm actually playing a little riskier than I normally do. I'm only 1 ring off from the rough right here. And so my Saturn has bigger rings, so it's got 2 miles per hour per ring versus the backbone, which is 1.2 miles per hour. And so when I'm using the backbone and I'm adjusting for the wind, I have to adjust it different. And so I'm comfortable shooting this shot with my Saturn, but I'm too dang close to this, and I don't want to take any risks. So I'm gonna, even though I've in the past, and I shot a video that's after this walkthrough on this hole where I was over here, I think I'm gonna move it in a little bit more so that I'm a couple rings off, and I'm either gonna have to bring a bigger ball like a katana or something that's got more right hand side spin so that I can bring it back to the hole. But I'm not a fan of coming further back out into the middle and trying to use like 2 or 3 backspin to get it to the hole and trying to run it up to it. I would rather come in with a little more backspin and land right at the hole and try and get it to stop right there, where it may end up going just a titch long, but not long enough to end up in that sand, and avoid the front of this green altogether. Because if you hit too short up here, or if it hits here and it's got any backspin and it starts going back down that hill, you will very easily end up down here in the shadow. Maybe even down here. So that's not I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to mess around with this par 3. I want to go right at it with a little bit of backspin, enough to make it stop right at the hole. So we're going to play these par 3s and work the deal on them, because those will be something that we want to play all week, where we're taking the safest shot that we can, but we're also giving ourselves a shot every time at a hole-in-one. Hole number 5. This is a par 5. And, okay, I've shot from over here with a QB, and tried to roll it up, and I ended up about this shadow. And from that shadow right there, so if you're hitting up to this shadow right here, your next shot you're bouncing off of this green and rolling on and trying to bounce it over that rough and then get over onto the green side. And it's definitely better to be low over here than high. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, I had to let my dog in. So if you bounce off from over here, you're trying to get through this neck in the middle part of the run, and pretty much, even with the big topper, and the big topper is super dangerous because it's taking its second and third, I mean, it's real dangerous to getting through this neck, and it's such an inaccurate club. So what you'll see a lot of people do is they'll bring a bigger ball, and this hole definitely screams 3-power ball. And you may or may not be using the wind here on this first shot. And what they'll do is if you see where the rough is right here, they're trying to get out into this area right here and not end up in this rough. Although if you end up here in the rough, you can, like if you really went for it and ended up way up here in the rough, you can still bounce it over from here and get down if you've got a good enough rough iron. But what they're trying to do is land in this zone right here. And so they're looking at this and they're using the wind and they're trying to come at it so that they come straight out into that area. And you have to do an overpower shot in order to get up to where that shadow is, where this tree is running across. They're trying to get somewhere out in this landing zone. And so they're using the wind and they're trying to judge it, and they're trying to land at not quite the skinniest spot of that net but a real skinny spot with overpower. And so it's a dangerous shot. So what I want to do is use a bigger power ball and go to a spot where I don't have to do any overpower, which is right back here. Okay, so when I'm here, my ball guide's going out like this. This is where the direction my ball guide's going. So in order to get my ball to come over here, I got to cut this angle. And I'm going to cut that angle by bring a Kingmaker. I'm going to use, I'm going to apply all, and excuse me, let's put that from where it is. I'm doing my first bounce right here. And it's going like this, and I'm trying to cut this angle to get my ball to go over there. So I'm going to do maximum curl, maximum left-hand side spin, and I'm not going to have to apply any overpower if I leave the wind in, and I have plenty of room with this rough up here. Now I did notice in the video that I posted after this walkthrough that on that particular one I had a pretty good wind that day, and I ended up pretty close up here to this rough. So it would be good to look at those numbers, so that if you're leaving the wind in, maybe you're only leaving 3.5 wind in or 4 wind in, 2 rings. You're leaving 2 rings of wind in every time, or you're leaving in 1.5 rings every time. And so if you got a 4-2 wind, you take 1.5. You take 1.2 miles per hour out, which is a half a ring. And so that you're staying more consistent. So every time you're landing here, 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 and you're not taking in that variable of the wind where it could, if the wind was too much and you weren't paying attention, throw you into that rough. But the whole goal is for that shot to come in and do this little walk around and end up right out here, even with that line. And you can see that where it sticks out, where that little teeny shadow sticks out right there. That little shadow right there that sticks out? You want to be, if you're up there on that line, you've got a beautiful, anywhere up in this area right here, you have a beautiful sniper shot where you can actually start the shot off on this side with a 3-power ball. You got great ball guide, great accuracy, and you can really go for it. You can also do this shot with a Guardian, and you can backspin it in. So if you don't have a high enough developed sniper and you feel more comfortable with the Guardian, this is still a great shot. And it's got more backspin and it's got a little more power, so you'll be able to get closer, and you'll actually be able to, instead of trying to drop it down and walk it into the hole, you can go a little more straight at it. If you find yourself short, you're going to have to hit this pad and clear that rough. So, if you're not consistently out in this area, this is a great hole if you've got underdeveloped clubs to bring a big dog. Because with a big dog, you're probably only going to have to get somewhere out in here in order to be able to get to this spot with the topspin that a big dog has to try and get over. The closer you are up here, the better. I don't know that you could get, I don't know if you could get below that line. But I know that you can get down here by the trees and do it, because if you have a quarterback, that's about where you're going to end up, is at the right at the bottom of that shadow. And I have done this with a sniper. If you bring a sniper here, so when I'm playing with my quarterback bag, this hole right now I was using a lower level ball, so I was using a Marlin, so I can't speak to what it would be like with a bigger power ball. But you can do a hook shot up here, so if you find yourself way short, but you can get about halfway in, you can do a hook shot and set yourself up out here and do that full hook slice and try and get enough whip that you can bounce yourself over to the other side. If you're at a spot where you can only get halfway and you can't reach over there, you have nothing to lose at this point, so you might as well try the hook shot. And the more you practice those shots, the more you'll get used to, like, hey, when I'm using, like, do a full thing, like 3 rings, 3 sets of rings. And that was way too much. So the next time you come to this hole and you find yourself in that same position, you go, okay, 3 rings was way too much, so let's just try 2. Well, that wasn't enough. So you can continue to work that number. But I definitely believe that getting up here without having to use any overpower, and the only thing I had to bring was a Kingmaker and start back here and then use the attributes that a Kingmaker has, is going to be a much higher percentage shot than trying to hit down here into this neck, into the skinny part of the fairway with a perfect shot, overpowered, using the wind. It's going to be very difficult. This is not going to be a high percentage albatross. The deal is you can give yourself a better shot up here with a sniper, but it's still not going to be a hole that a lot of people albatross. So if you get an albatross on this hole, you just got something big. You got something that a lot of people aren't going to get. But securing your eagle here is the goal. All right, hole number 6. Now, I'm going to have to remember how to play hole number 6. So hole number 6 was one of it's a Portello. It's hole 7, par 4. It was in the Summer Major, and it was hole 7 in the Summer Major. So this hole right here, I don't have any videos for, and I can't find my notes. But I know I'm almost positive that I played this hole, and I'm going to try this the first time I come to it. I played this hole with a QB and a Kingmaker, and I brought a Hornet. And the whole goal is that this is a pretty good backboard. And what a lot of people are going to do is they're going to try and come out here and they're going to overpower. They're going to try and get that shot to whip around, but they're bringing an extra mile and they're going to end up popping off over here, and they're going to either end up in the sand or in the rough. But with a QB, you got so much more side spin, curl, that and it's just got better attributes for this. So you get out into this area right here, up here in the front, and it is a little tricky. You want to stay about 3 rings away from that rough. Don't push the issue here. I'm looking at my notes here real quick. Hole number 5, hole number 6. So we're doing 10% on the driver. So we're going to add 10% onto the wind for the driver, but we want to make sure we give ourselves room, because it drops down here more than just the wind. It's an elevation drop. So the wind isn't as a factor, but even we'd have to screw our wind way up to account for it. So give yourself plenty of room when you're down here. And you're coming up against this edge wherever the red line is. Wherever you can get out on this line down here, and maximum left-hand side spin, or excuse me, right-hand side spin. And I'm going to have to work the numbers on how much top spin, because I don't think you use it all. And your goal is to try and bounce here and come into this area, and you're rolling up this hill and you're coming out right here in front where you're in your mid to max wedge. And that's going to get you your absolute best shot of getting up there, and you can do it with just a better power ball and a quarterback. Now the other way to go is you can bounce over here, and then you've got this straight in shot. But if you come over here, you have less green to work with. So if you come over here, you're going to have to, I'm not sure what that looks like from that side. But if the wind, you're always kind of playing with the wind. So if the wind is going, you know, I'm not going to worry about the wind. I'm going to try and get right out here in front. So my second shot, I don't have to worry too much about the wind. It's more about trying to get the shot to go in with the contour of the course. But this is one I'll have to play in the first qualifying round. Well, you will use it as a practice round to remember how to play this hole. But I'm going to bring, to start off with, a quarterback and a kingmaker and a hornet. And I'm going to do 10% on the drive. Hole number 7. All right, this par 3 right here, I cannot remember how to play it. And this is once again one of those summer major holes. And I won the summer major, so I figured out how to play this hole. I won the summer major in 2 different accounts. And so I'll just have to remember how to play this hole. I'm positive that I played this hole. I mean, I think it's I can't remember. I can't remember if it's a sniper, a guardian, if it's a long iron or a wood hole. I can't remember. I think that it's a wood hole, but we'll have to find out when we get to the deal. But I can tell you that if I remember correctly, I'm not messing around back here, and I'm definitely not messing around over here. I'm going to start off as close to the green as I can. There's a hollow right here. And so whenever you're looking at these courses, you can see these contour marks, and you can see that there's a hollow. And sometimes I try and land my ball right at the very bottom of that. So I'm hitting a flatter surface. But I cannot remember how I played this hole, but I know I'm not messing around too much with this up here. I might have got to this flat area right here, but I can't remember how I'm going to play this hole until I get to it the first time. And then we'll have to just play it a few times and see how it works. All right. Now, I put 2 videos up of this hole. And I did because this hole is going to really depend on, like, if you're playing from the further back tees, or if you're playing with clubs that are less developed, you're going to probably want to go down here. And there are several ways that you can get down there. You can come through the trees. If you pull around and look at it when you're in the game, and you can look through, there's a gap. There's 2 gaps. There's one that goes right here, and there's another gap that goes over. There's gaps through these trees, and you can try and shoot yourself through the trees. Now, the only hole that I can think of, there's a par 4 where there's the greens here and there's trees out here, and I hit through the trees every time. I mean, that's my shot. I just, wherever I end up, I usually end up in the rough, and I like that rough shot from up there. This is not one where if you get caught up here in the trees, you may not get on to get your birdie. And you absolutely need to get, this hole is a tough hole to eagle, but it is eagleable. And so you have to give yourself a shot at it, and it's hard enough to get, and it's a tough eagle. So if you make any mistakes, it's going to be a super tough birdie, and we don't want that to happen. So if you're going to go down here, you can, a QB, I did it. One of the videos I shot has an extra mile, and I started right off here in the corner. I didn't put a lot of I put a lot of side spin on it, left-hand side spin, to get it to go down the hill. And where you want to be when you're down here is you want to be past these trees. So that means that anywhere in the shadow right here, I mean, that's the area, that's the most common area to end up, is to just dribble down into that shadow. The further down the hill you can get, the better. But if you just make that shadow, you're clear of the trees. You got a straight in shot. But no matter where you get from down here, so it doesn't matter how far you get, any place over here, you're in long iron. Now you do have some green to work with here when you're coming at it. So you'll have to figure out which long iron you prefer to come in on that side, but you will be with a long iron. If you bring a big topper, now I tried this on that last tournament, and if you brought a big topper and a Titan, you were ending up out here. You were past the trees. And the whole goal is there's a line out here, and if you're on this side of the line, you're in your maximum short iron, and if you're on just barely on this side of the line, you're in your minimum long iron. So on both sides of that, if you can get along that line, you're in a great position on your club. So if you're in your minimum long iron, it's a lot more accurate at minimum than it is at maximum. And if you're in your maximum short iron, those are good places to be, because those are, like most people remember their maximum numbers the most. So the whole goal is to get out into this area. If you use an extra mile and a bigger ball, you can obviously get out to this area. But if you're just using a 3-power ball and an extra mile, you'll end up a little shorter than a big topper with that same 3-power ball because of the top spin, even though it doesn't have as much power to begin with. So on this hole, I'm going to bring a big topper, a Titan. That way I can use the wind to my advantage. It's going to be a maxed overpower shot. We're going to add 10% once we go onto the green. We're not going to worry about the drive shot, but when we go onto the green, we're going to add 10% wind. Max top spin, 1 left-hand side spin when we're doing the drive shot. And I'm lining up more towards the sand. So if you look at where the tee box is, let's zoom this out just a little. Let's go back to hole number 8. I guess that's as close as I can zoom it out. So if you look at where the tee box is, where you want to end up is out in that area up ahead of that, and here's your tee box. So here's your straight line. Well, if I try and if I hit out here straight, I'm always going to end up higher than that line, and I'm going to definitely be more in my long iron range when I'm up here than if I'm down here. So we want the ball, when we hit it from the tee box, we want it to do this curl and try and go like that. I mean, obviously you can't get down this far with that club, but the whole goal is to try and get somewhere along that line. That puts you past this tree here in the front, and then you've got a straight in shot to the green. So if you're on that side of the line, you're more than likely going to be in your short iron range. And if you're on this side of the line, you're going to be in your long iron range. So we need it to curl around this way. So when I start my shot off from the tee box, I'm gonna start that line towards the sand so that my ball guide's looking like this. And when I take the shot, I've got a little teeny bit of left-hand side spin to make the ball hop in that direction on the first bounce. But I've got my curl in there so that it hits the bounce and then just continues to follow the path that the curl put in and brings me around that corner. If I set my ball up in the middle when I take this shot, so if I set the ball up in the middle and I apply the one side spin, so it's going just a little bit in that direction, and then I apply all that curl to get the ball to do this, and I miss the shot and I hit great on the inside. So I hit great to the left. The ball's going like this now. And if I started off out here along this line and I hit great to the left, the ball's going to go like this and it's going to end up out in the clear. If I hit it perfect, it's going to go like this and end up out in the clear. If I hit it great on the right hand side, I've got so much stuff going to the left that when it hits out here, wherever its first bounce is, it's going to want to run a little and it's going to end up a little high, and all 3 of those shots are going to end up in the clear. It's very unlikely that I'm going to have anything that's not in the fairway, even if I hit a great to the left, right, or perfect, if you line up out here on the outside first. But if you line up on the inside with all that curl, you're making the ball go this direction. So if you hit it on the inside, it's going to end up out here somewhere in this bad stuff. All right, that was hole number 8. Oh, hole number 8. This is a hole that if you get an eagle on it, you're going to jump up and down. I mean, these par 4s aren't like some of the par 4s in these other tournaments where, it's like, okay, we got to get an eagle on it. I mean, we would love to get an eagle on this. This is not an easy hole to eagle. All right, hole number 9. This was hole number. This is one of the Eagle Peak holes. It's hole 6, par 5, and we're coming out into. We want to get we want to have our first landing spot or ending spot be right there. Now, if you end up going too long and ending up in the rough out here, you can go from that rough area to this fairway area and do a bounce over to try and get over to the green. But if you have a Nirvana, it'll take just about every single bit of that Nirvana, and it has just and you might not have enough topspin to make the gap to bridge to get over to the other side, and so you may end up getting caught. So but it is doable. So if you have a bigger, something bigger than, this might be one of those ones to bring a rough iron like your Amazon, even though it doesn't have good ball guide, at least it's got more distance, and you could try and get out here into this rough area and do a rough bump. But you can get it done down here. It's possible. But ideally, you want to end up in the fairway. So on this particular hole, we're bringing an extra mile, a Titan. We're going to put 5 topspin, 1 to 2 right-hand side spin. So when we do this, we're coming from the tee box. We're coming from the tee box. We draw a straight line to where we want to end up. And we're going to start off, because we're doing a max over. We're doing a max. Is this a max? It's what we're going to do, just a little bit of overpower. So we're taking the wind out and then a little right hand curl plus overpower. So we're doing overpower on this in order to get it over there. So we're doing all overpower. So when we're doing an overpower shot like that, we've got a ridge right here. We'd like the ball to come so that it stays on this side of the ridge. So when we shoot it, we're going to put some curl on it to get it to go that direction. A little bit of right hand curl and a little bit of right hand side spin. So that when it hits, wherever it hits out here, its first bounce, everything's moving it towards the right. So it stays up on top of that ridge. So let me read my notes here again. Extra mile Titan, 5 topspin, 1 to 2 right hand side spin. We're going to take the wind out, and then we're going to put a little bit of right hand curl and overpower. So I'm assuming I didn't put a little overpower, I put OP, so I'm assuming we're doing max overpower. And I like to do that if I'm going to do max overpower and I don't need the wind to help me, and obviously I don't because we're taking the wind out. I want to take the wind out of the equation, because if I go, well, hey, I could get further and I wouldn't have to do as big of overpower. The wind changes every round. It's 3 miles an hour one round, it's 4.2 the next, and so it can mess you up. So by taking the wind out, then you're just back onto your own, you're making the variables. On the second shot, I'm going from here and doing a rough bump and going on. I show in the video, there's a video of this hole where I came in with a Guardian and I landed over on this side and I was backspinning towards the hole trying to get it to go right in the hole. But I've always found that those backspin shots, that's not a consistent way to try and get an Albie. And so I have 100% confidence in my ability to do rough bump shots. And so I'm going to do, and I like those kind of shots. A lot of people don't like them. So if you don't like doing rough bumps, bring a Guardian. Then you can try and do the backspin and go straight at the hole. But if you're not, and so if you've got a higher developed sniper where you've got backspin on it, you can use your sniper for the same thing. But if you've got a less developed sniper, it's better to bring a Guardian, even though you don't have the ball guide, and try and go straight at it with backspin. But I'm going to do a rough bump out of this rough, and you have to have, when you're in this rough, to do this rough bump, you don't want to start, like here's the center of the rough, you don't want to start anywhere on that side. If you're trying to hit over here and then trying to run it through that much rough, you're going to get caught up in it, no matter, it's just a rough deal. So you need to be on this side of that line when you're doing the rough bump, and obviously the closer you can get, I personally wouldn't want to be any farther into the rough than about a quarter of the way in. And you need a club, you need a wood that's got enough topspin that if you're in this area that you can blast through it and bring the end of your ball guide all the way to the hole. If you've only got 1 or 2 topspin, you're probably not going to get it done. The end of your ball guide will end right here, and with momentum, you'll end up kind of dribbling onto the green or end up in the fringe. So you need a club that's got enough topspin. So you're going to either need a sniper that's got enough, we're talking 3.5 to 4 topspin. And the deal is, you may find that if you may not have quite enough topspin for the place that you'd like to start off out here, but if you move it in a little bit more, you can get the ball to where you want it. That just means that the closer you get to the edge of the rough, the bigger the risk you take that when you take the shot, if you don't adjust for the wind right, that your first bounce will end up on the fairway, and then you're off to the races because you put that topspin on there. So ideally, if you want to give yourself enough breathing room wherever you set your ball up out here. But if you bring a sniper, you've got really good wind, 1 mile per hour per ring. I think, depending on the ball, and I can't remember on this hole, I think that we're in about mid-club. But we'll have to see the first time we get there. All right, that was hole number 9. Now, hold on a second, I'm going to do some math. I'll be right back. All right, let's do a little recap here. So on hole number 1, we need to absolutely get a birdie. But this is one of those holes that there's going to be just way too many people that pick up at least one eagle on this. And the guys at the top, I'm telling you, this is a hole that people are going to be working hard to get an eagle at every time. I think we almost have to get an eagle at least once every round on this hole. So I'm going to put this down as a 1.5 hole. We're going to need to get an eagle one round and a birdie the next, and going for eagle every time type of hole. This hole here is definitely a -1 hole, so we need to just get birdie. If we get hole in one, that's a bonus. This hole right here is an eagle hole. We need to get a -2, but we need to go for Albie, so this is a go for. That's a shot. It's a tough shot, but that is a shot there. So that's a -2 hole. This hole right here is a -1 hole. It's another par 3. Let's just get our birdie and go home. This is a par 5 hole. We need to get an eagle on this hole. And it's not going to be a high percentage albatross hole. And it can be a very difficult if you mess this drive up. This isn't about this second shot. It's about setting yourself up for that second shot. So this hole right here, just to stop real quick, this hole will eat your lunch. If you went, I'm going to get up here, and I brought this club to do this shot so that I can start over here, and you end up messing up down here, that club's not going to get it done. So the smart move here is to bring a big dog so that you can have the biggest wood in your bag to help you on that second shot to just secure your eagle. So I'm planning on bringing a sniper, but that's only because I'm going to have 100% faith that I can get to the spot out here every time. But it's still a -2 hole. We're trying to get an eagle on this hole. So hole number 6. This hole right here, this par 4, and I'm telling you, this hole is, I have not been able to get on, but I have gotten out here in the front where I am almost bump and run range with my rapier. That close. And it is definitely an eagleable hole, but I don't think that everybody, if you're looking at what people are going to get for the perfect round, this is going to be, once again, this is going to be one of those holes that you're going to try and eagle every single time. But if you can get 1 out of 2, you're going to feel like you still did pretty good. So I'm going to put this as a 1.5 hole. Hole number 7. Once again, we're trying for birdie. But I do believe that this hole right here of the par 3s, once I play it and can remember what I was doing, that this hole right here is definitely got, of the holes, the best hole in one potential. Hole number 8. This is, once again, this is probably, of the par 4s, the hardest one to get. Because you have got to be in the right spot. You're taking anything on, in this range here, you're in long iron. Pretty much anything there, you're in long iron. You're in long iron down here. So this is a long iron hole, and long iron holes are, are tough. A lot tougher than the short iron holes. That's why we're trying to get out here to get into our short iron. But This hole right here, even getting up there in your short iron, it's a low percentage. I mean, it is an absolutely tough eagle. So I'm going to put this as a 1 hole, and there's going to be people that eagle this hole, and they're going to be the lucky few. So this is a great hole to try and pick one up on, but I don't think it's one that you could like, hey, I got the shot now and I got this shot down, because even the best shot out here, unless you can use a big enough ball and you got enough curl that you could whip yourself, and you might be able to do it with a 5 power ball. It'd be worth trying. And I may try it when we get out here and we start practicing and see, like, what does it look like? Like, where did I end up down there? Who cares if I even get on the green? Like, where did I end up? And see what it looks like. But this is still going to be a -1 hole, just trying to get your birdie. This hole right here is an eagle hole with an albatross shot, but it's not a high percentage albatross shot. None of these, I mean, none of the par 4s are super easy, but the first 2 are definitely doable, and there is a way to try and get that consistent shot. So our average round is going to be 1, 5, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we're looking at -13 would be kind of like the perfect round. So anything from like -12 to -14 is like shooting up there at the top where you're like super consistent. So if you're playing in the rookie division, you're playing in the rookie tournament in a rookie bracket, you're probably looking at somewhere in that, for the weekend round, probably between 24 and 28. So let's say 26ers are at the top, but anywhere from 24 to 26 is going to be like stout. That'll probably get you a top 10. If you're shooting in the pro brackets, you're probably not going to be too far off of that shot. You just may see a few more people up there at the 26 with a possible 27. If you're playing in the expert, you're going to be looking at 26. You're going to be looking at somewhere between 26 and 28, and I would say that it'll probably take a minimum of 24 just to get into the weekend round. Like, you'll have to shoot at least a 24 in the opening round in order to make the weekend round. Maybe a little bit less just because of the variable holes. If you're playing in the Masters bracket, you're probably going to have to shoot no less than a 28 just to be in the top 3. Probably a 29. All right. So if you're playing, for most of you, I think you're playing in the rookie and the pro brackets. So if you're playing in the rookie and the pro brackets, that 12 to 14, looking for the 13. But that had you picking up 1 hole, 1 shot on those. So if you get a 12, don't be too disappointed. It's just really focus on those par 4s. Hole number 1. Okay, this hole right here, if you want to practice this hole is this is from the Parc de Paris. It's hole 1, par 4 of Parc de Paris. So whatever tour that's in, is that tour 4, I think? So I think it might be in tour 4. But this would be a hole to go down and try and get to play, because, find a spot. Come down here and try this shot. It's a safe shot from over here, and you do your long iron. Try and get out here. You're just practicing down there at that level just to see what it looks like. But this is the shot, I think, over here to go for. So if you come on this hole, pop out your extra mile and pop out a bigger ball and see what that shot looks like. Because I don't think you can mess this shot up. It's just getting it out here the right way each time. All right, that was the 2nd anniversary tournament. That was just kind of a basic walkthrough here at the beginning. We need to keep working on our stats and our numbers. Try and perfect our notes for the tournament, and definitely use Monday as a practice round. I'll try and shoot a practice round Monday early morning and get it posted, so you guys can take a look at it, and then go in and play your own practice round and kind of perfect your notes and kind of get used to those holes. And if you need, on Tuesday, when you go out to practice on Tuesday, if you find that you're on hole 4 and something bad happens, you have to ask yourself before you go to hole number 5, like, do I feel like if I played tomorrow and qualified that I could get this done? Or do you think that what you've done so far is, good enough to get you in? Because you can wait until Wednesday, but it's really risky if you wait till Wednesday, especially if you're having problems on some holes. But if you feel risky like that, go for it. If you don't make it on Tuesday, you can always make it on Wednesday, and see where it lands. All right, I will talk to you guys again on Monday. Thanks for watching.